Well, hello everyone. Thanks for the invitation from PyCon Elon team. I'm Xiaojian Wang, currently a front-end machine learning engineer working in Alibaba Incorporation. We are very glad to see that there are even many Python developers in the Middle East who are interested in machine learning in the front-end area and our latest work. It's a great honor for me to represent my team and give out this speech on how we build AI libraries for the front-end developers and use AI in front-end area. Well, we'll revolve today's topic around the following three parts. We will introduce what AI could do for front-end, and secondly, we'll introduce Datacook, which is a JavaScript machine learning library. And finally, we'll introduce Pipecook, which is a useful toolbox for building JavaScript CI/CD pipelines. Well, let us come to the first question, what AI could do for front-end. Before we can answer this question, let's first come to the issue about what front-end could do. Basically speaking, front-end is a development field, especially for human-computer interaction. There are many sub-areas in front-end like UI development, data visualization, front-end infrastructure, as well as games. It's worth noting that with the development of the Node.js in recent years, the capability of the front-end have been greatly expanded. For example, many front-end engineers have also begun to do some back-end development work. Well, speaking of artificial intelligence, we all know that AI has developed very rapidly in recent years, especially in the area of computer vision and natural language processing. Machine learning and deep learning models have been widely implemented in thousands of tasks like image classification, object detection, sequence tagging, text classification, and etc. Well, let's come to the interaction part of the AI and front-end. Well, in recent practices, the application of the AI in the front-end field mainly focuses on two aspects. The first one is the automatic or assistant programming, which aims to improve the developer experience and increase the developer productivity. And the second area is user experience improvement, which is for enhancing the product user experience and also enhancing business value. Well, firstly, let me introduce an application of automatic programming in the front-end field, which is called Imagecook. Well, Imagecook is a platform developed by our team in Taobao that can automatically generate code from design draft with the help of machine learning capabilities. Well, the code generation process in Imagecook can be split into the following steps. The first step is layer parsing, which is to extract structured information from design draft files. And the second step will come to the UI information recognition, which is to recognize semantic information of UI interface images and text through the NLP method, image classification method, and object detection method, and other machine learning models. Well, let's come to the third step, which is called layout analysis. Here we use our designed layout algorithm to infer the page layout structure. Well, finally, it is the code generation part, in which we can generate the corresponding code in different platforms like Flutter code, H5 code, and other codes. Well, here is a specific example of how Imagecook uses AI capabilities. We use image classification technology to identify the type of icon and apply the semantic of the icon to the final generated code. You can see in the left-hand side, the class name of the like icon will be tagged as picture1 without the icon recognize algorithm. Well, after we did the recognition work, the class name of which will become iconGood, which is much semantic than the previous one. Well, if you wanted to know more detail about ImageCook, please visit our website www.imagecook.com. Well, let's talk about how AI assists front-end user experience improvement. The usage of augmented reality is worth noting practice in this area. In Taobao, we have developed the AR Beauty and AR Wear. In the AR Beauty application, after turning on the camera, users can try different shades by clicking on different lipsticks. Well, in like AR shoes wear, users can find their favorite shoes by switching items in the bottom area. In these AR applications, we use deep learning models to detect the key point and use materials simulation and 3D rendering technology for the final rendering. Well, through the previous introduction, we have already known that machine learning have been applied to a certain extent in the front-end field. But basically speaking, currently the application of machine learning is still concentrated in the Python ecosystem. I believe that you Python developers will understand better about this point. Well, Python actually is really good and provide many standard libraries to solve machine learning problems like scikit-learn, like SciPy, TensorFlow, PyTorch, and Extra. But as a front-end team, we hope to use the front-end technology stack to solve these machine learning problems in order to promote the iteration and development of the front-end field itself. Based on these considerations, we came up with the idea of building a standard library for front-end machine learning, and Datacook actually is one of the products of this idea. Well, what is Datacook? As a machine learning and data science library for JavaScript and TypeScript, we hope that it will provide the basic tools that users may use in data processing and analysis, as well as model training or deployment. Inspired by the standard library in Python and R, Datacook provides similar implementations about data preprocess, statistical analysis, and a bunch of machine learning models, including their training and prediction methods. Well, it is worth noting that because of the cross-platform nature of the JavaScript language, Datacook code can be easily run on browser side of the computer or mobile phone, which makes the deployment of the model very convenient. The framework of Datacook can be divided into several parts in this figure. At the bottom layer, we use TF.js as a basic computing framework. As an excellent front-end deep learning framework, TF.js provides high-performance matrix computing and derivation computing methods available in front-end. Above TF.js, we have math package, in which we provide some mathematical or scientific methods like bet function, gamma function, t function, and extra. While in the Linux package, we provide the computation methods corresponding to linear algebra, like matrix determinant, inverse, eigendecomposition, SVD decomposition, and extra. In state parts, many useful statistical methods are provided, like random distribution creation, ANOVA test, t-test, computation of the correlation, covariance, and variance. Well, in dataset parts, we provide the method of data reading, shuffling, and sampling. Well, in the pre-process part, we provide methods like data transformation, data encoder, and regularization, and extra. Well, in metrics, methods for model validations are provided like AUC, ROC, precision, recall, accuracy. Well, finally, we'll come to the most important part in Datacook, the model part. In model part, we have implemented most of the classical statistical machine learning models, like linear regression, logistical regression, decision tree principle, component analysis, k-means, as well as factor analysis and extra. Well, the installation and the usage of Datacook is very simple. In Node.js, you only need to install it through npm. Well, the JS package management is very useful, which is the usage of which is very similar to the usage of PIP. Well, if you need to import it on the browser, just add the script tag of Datacook in your HTML file. Well, to include Datacook in your code, you only need to use the import statement in JS. Here we demonstrate the use of Datacook by training a simple linear regression model. Firstly, we import model package from Datacook and then introduce the linear regression model class, and then we will define the training feature set X, which is a two-dimensional array in JS, and Y, the one-dimensional target training set. Then we will initialize the model object LM by creating an instance of the linear regression, a fit method of which can be applied for the model training, and X and Y will be the input training parameters. Finally, we can use the predict method to get the model prediction. Well, here I'm gonna show you a simple practical example of Datacook naive Bayes model for spam detection. We'll use a public dataset of spam on Kaggle. This dataset is divided into 4 columns. The first column is ID, the second is the label, includes ham and spam. Text column is for the specific mail message, while in the label num column, 0 is for ham and 1 is for spam. Well, our target for this task is to train naive Bayes model for spam detection and deploy it on the online application. To accomplish this task, we can break the process down into 5 steps. Well, at first, we will fetch the dataset, and secondly, will be the data pre-processing, and it will be the model training and model validation. Finally, it will come to the model deployment. In data fetching and pre-processing, we use node fetch to get data file from network. Since the input data is of text format, we will use the count vectorizer in Datacook to convert the text documents to a matrix of token counts, which can be directly used for the training of naive Bayes model. Well, next we'll come to the model training part. The process of model training is very simple. We first introduce the naive Bayesian model class provided by Datacook and then create a new model object. After that, we call the train method and input the training data and the labels as the parameters. In the validation part, we first use the predict method to get a prediction, and then use the accuracy score method provided in Datacook to validate the model performance. We can see that in this dataset, the accuracy score is 0.989, which is pretty good. It seems like our trained model is doing really well in our training set. Finally, we can save the model by the toJSON method. Because this is just a simple example, we did not separate the training set and the test set in the validation process, but in practical applications, separation is actually necessary. Well, the last step is the deployment of the model. This step is still very simple. The user only needs to read model files through the fetch method and the load model by load method provided in Datacook. Then you can use the trained model for the online data processing and prediction. Here is the online example of these applications. Give me a little bit time. Well, this is the application of this example. Well, sorry. Let me come to the inbox. Well, in the inbox, they will contain all of the mail list. Well, once you click the spam collection using naive Bayes button, the prediction made by the naive Bayes model will be applied for each of the message in each of the message items. Well, in which the spam labeled items will be removed to the from the inbox and moved to the trash box. You can see this is all the trash miles. Well, through the previous introduction, we know that Datacook provides some basic tools and methods for front-end machine learning, but in the production environment, we usually need to integrate these tools for better management and iteration. So in the last part, we will introduce Pipecook, which is a powerful tool for building continuous integration and continuous delivery pipelines in JavaScript. Earlier, we mentioned that Node.js enables the front-end engineers to start server-side development. Similarly, we hope that Pipecook can help front-end developers to quickly develop machine learning models. Well, why do we do CI/CD for ML? Well, firstly, model development only accounts for small parts of the entire machine learning system, and others will include like configuration, data collection, processing, resource management, and model deployment and extra. And secondly, in the production environment, we will need a stable pipeline for sustainable integration and delivery of the model. So here is the pipeline design of Pipecook. We'll start from the data source product. The data source script will provide the basic operation of the data, including the iteration, seek, shuffle, and also provide the metadata of the data source. Well, then the data will enter to the data flow script. In this part, the original data will be processed. There can be multiple data flows. Well, after the data flows, the processed data will enter the model script for training. After the training, the output model will be processed further by the multiple artifact plugins. Like you can do some model compression, deployment, and extra. And finally, we will produce a product usable in the production environment. Well, here is an example of the configuration file of the Pipecook pipeline, which is an example of an image classification model, including the first spec version of the pipeline and the script file of data source, data flow, and model, and artifact and extra. Well, in the options part, you can define some training parameters in this pipeline here. Well, here is the output of the pipeline. Well, in logs directory, we'll save the logs created when the pipeline is run once. Well, in the model directory, we'll save the model files of the pipeline products. Well, in the index.js will be the example to predict the data using the model trend. And the metadata.json will be the metadata of the pipeline, and finally the package.json will be the dependencies of the model. Well, prediction of the model in Pipecook is very simple. You only need to input the directory of the model file and the directory of the data you want to get prediction. Then the output will be saved to your local file automatically. Well, although we are working hard to improve the toolchain of front-end machine learning like Datacook, but we have to admit that there is still a large distance from the mature ecology of Python. In order to make up this gap, we have developed a toolkit that can smoothly call Python methods in JS, which is called BOA.js. Here is an example of Keras code in Python and JavaScript. The introduction of BOA makes the Python methods called in the JS environment is much similar to the native environment. Well, if you wanted to use your familiar Python tools in the JS environment, we believe that BUA will be a very excellent choice for you. Well, that's all for today's report. Thanks again for the organizer for this invitation. Well, if you are interested in our works, please visit our website for more details. At the same time, our open source projects Pipecook and Datacook are still in development. We are very welcome the contributors from all over the world to join in. Well, thank you again. Bye.